Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, February 27, 2020. Join us for the next 45 minutes as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and live via streaming worldwide through UNTV News and Rescue Facebook account and UNTVweb.com. I am William Theo.
And here are the headlines.
Japanese woman tests positive for the coronavirus for the second time, weeks after her initial recovery. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirms the first possible community transmission of the coronavirus in the United States of America. The travel ban to South Korea is pending full implementation while authorities are still ironing out the guidelines for the travel restrictions. President Rodrigo Duterte hints of dismissing more immigration personnel over the Pastillas bribery scheme. ABS-CBN to donate 2.6 billion pesos worth of unaired political advertisement refund to chosen charity. And state hydrologists warn Angat Dam's water level may drop below normal operating level in mid-May.
Japan has reported its first case of a person becoming reinfected with the coronavirus after appearing to have fully recovered.
The case has health experts worrying that the illness could remain dormant after an apparent recovery. Kath Dumaraos details why.
A bus conductor in her 40s tested positive for the COVID-19 coronavirus after what appeared a recovery from the disease. The resident of Osaka, the capital of the Western Japan prefecture, may have been reinfected, or the virus may have regained strength in her body after going latent, officials said. The woman was confirmed infected January 29 after attending a tour that included visitors from China's Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak. After her condition improved, she was discharged from hospital February 1st. She tested negative through a screening she voluntarily took on February 6 during a monitoring period. On February 19, she felt discomfort in the throat and had chest pain. She then visited more than once the medical institution where she had been hospitalized. Health Minister Katsunobu Kato said in Parliament the central government would need to review patient lists and keep tabs on the condition of those previously discharged as health experts analyze the implications of testing positive for the virus after an initial recovery. Though a first in Japan, cases on second positive tests have been reported in China, where the disease originated late last year. The outbreak has spread rapidly and widely, infecting about 80,000 people globally and killing nearly 2,800, the vast majority in mainland China. Japan has changed its strategy in combating the contagion, seeking to slow its spread and minimize the number of deaths. As part of the attempt to contain the outbreak, Tokyo Olympics officials are considering scaling down the torch relay, Tokyo 2020 CEO Toshiro Muto said on Wednesday. The government is also considering scaling back this year's March 11 memorial ceremony for victims of 2011's massive earthquake and tsunami. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed the first possible community spread of the coronavirus in the United States of America. But President Donald Trump sought to play down the threat from the spreading coronavirus. Nina Bascon tells us why.
U.S. President Donald Trump told Americans on Wednesday that the risk from coronavirus remained very low and placed Vice President Mike Pence in charge of the U.S. response to the looming global health crisis. At a White House briefing, Trump defended his administration's handling of the crisis.
The risk to the American people remains very low. And we have the greatest experts in the world, really in the world, right here. The people that are called upon by other countries when things like this happen. We're ready to adapt and we're ready to do whatever we have to. as the disease spreads, if it spreads.
Trump made his comments as public health officials warned Americans to prepare for more coronavirus cases. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed an infection of the new coronavirus in California in someone who had not traveled outside the United States or been exposed to a person known to have the virus, a first for the country. How the person was infected was not known. It brought the total number of cases in the United States to 15, according to the CDC. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio called on the government to help the city obtain 300,000 extra protective masks. There were no confirmed cases in the city, but de Blasio announced plans to provide up to 1,200 hospital beds if needed.
Already, our public health officials have distributed 1.5 million masks in the city of New York. That is a very good start, but we need more. We have requests out for an additional minimum of 300,000 surgical masks. To guarantee that these arrive in New York City promptly, we will need federal assistance. So I'm calling on the federal government to help us and all other localities to get the masks we need, working with the private sector providers.
U.S. stock markets fell for the fifth consecutive day on investors' alarm about the respiratory disease spreading. At the White House, Trump said he was not ready to institute new travel restrictions for countries such as South Korea and Italy that are dealing with outbreaks, although he could not rule it out. The State Department raised its travel alert level for South Korea and urged Americans to reconsider going there. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar said that while the virus was contained in the United States, Americans must prepare for a potential outbreak as transmission spread outside of China.
The immediate risk to the general American public remains low. But as we have warned, that has the potential to change quickly. That's why we've already been working closely with state, local, and private sector partners to prepare for mitigating the virus's potential spread in the United States, because we will likely see more cases here, as we have said throughout this episode.
The United States has 59 coronavirus cases, including 42 American passengers repatriated from the Diamond Princess cruise ship docked in Japan. Nina Bascon, UNTV News and Rescue.
The Bureau of Immigration has yet to impose a full implementation of the temporary travel ban on South Korea. As of now, only Filipino tourists bound for South Korea are prohibited from pursuing their flights. Joanano tells us why.
The Bureau of Immigration is still waiting for the Interagency Task Force to release a resolution on the process and regulations of the travel ban on South Korea. The travel restriction, as announced by Malacanang yesterday, includes travelers coming from Daegu and North Gyeongsang Province, where more than 900 COVID-19 cases have been recorded. BI spokesperson Dana Sandoval says the resolution they await will include the process of identifying travelers coming from Daegu City and North Gyeongsang Province.
Dahil wala pong indication sa kanilang passport if they are coming from these areas. Yung Interagency Task Force po ay makikipag-coordinate with the Korean authorities para po makapag-issue sila ng certification to distinguish kung yung passenger po ba, yung foreign national po ba na dumadating galing sa Korea ay galing po sa mga areas of concern na yon.
As of now, Filipinos going to any part of South Korea for tourism or travel purposes are not allowed to travel. But flights bound for South Korea are still operational in Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Today, around 20 arrival and departure flights from Incheon and Busan were scheduled in NAIA. Airline companies wait an order from the Civil Aeronautics Board before they could cancel flights with destinations in South Korea.
Sa ngayon po, patuloy po yung ating flights to South Korea. So once na maplansya na po natin lahat ng ito, maglalabas po tayo kaagad ng travel advisory, listing down any possible flight na pwedeng makancel dahil po sa travel ban na ito.
The airlines, even the Bureau of Immigration, once they receive a copy of the resolution, binibigyan po sila ng IATF ng ganitong oras para maisagawa nila yan, maipa-advise nila sa airlines at maipatupad natin yan.
Cebu Pacific has temporarily halted its online check-in service for international flights. In a Twitter post, Cebu PAC explains the airline intends to personally check the travel history of a passenger as a precautionary measure against COVID-19. The Philippine Airlines has earlier suspended its self-printed or digital boarding passes for domestic and international flights. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Not only passengers but also seafarers have been affected by the COVID-19 infection on the MV Diamond Princess. Travel bans have been imposed by countries also due to COVID-19. Who are the seafarers that could be affected by such travel restrictions? Dante Amento will tell us why.
Several countries have imposed travel bans due to the coronavirus disease 2019. The COVID-19 outbreak has affected various sectors, including education, business, and tourism. Shipping lines are no exception. To cite one, the Diamond Princess cruise ship was quarantined in Japan due to a high number of infections recorded within the ship. But according to Engineer Nelson Ramirez, the president and founder of the United Filipino Seafarers, cargo ships are not affected because there is no close contact between the ship crew members and people outside the sea vessel. Cargo ship crew members can even stay on the ship upon reaching their destination.
Lalo na ngayon na moderno na mga barko at moderno na rin ang mga terminal, mabilis lang ang kargada, pagkakarga maya-maya sasabihin na sa'yo, sige alis na tayo. Hindi ka man lang makababa, nasanay na rin kami sa ganyan.
But a cruise ship is a totally different story. Cruise ship or passenger ships are directly affected and prone to infection because close contact and interaction among passengers and crew members take place. According to Engineer Ramirez, one effect is on manpower.
Mga cruise ships ay marami ang crew dyan. Sa isang barko, mayroong mga 500 mahigit. Kang mga Filipino crew ang nandyan. So biruin mo kung ilang barko yan at ilang daan ang mga Pilipino na magdaragat na nasa barkong yan, malaking epekto ito.
Another impact is that when a ship cannot operate for a certain time, that means less crew members are needed. That means loss of job.
Hindi na sila tatakbo, hindi na sila maglalayag, hindi nila kailangan yung maraming crew. So maaring magkakaroon na lang sila ng skeleton crew at mag-ankorahe sila.
Magsaysay Maritime Corporation is the shipping agency that deployed the Diamond Princess cruise ship Filipino crew members. The company said all Filipino crew members affected by the COVID-19 will be compensated during the 14-day quarantine period in Capas, Tarlac. They will also receive 2 months' worth of pay after completing the entire quarantine period. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, City of Manila.
Meanwhile, another Filipino worker in Hong Kong has tested positive for the novel coronavirus disease or COVID-19 in the Philippine Consulate General said Thursday. The Philippine Consulate General said, citing information from the Hong Kong Health Department, the latest case is a 29-year-old Filipina. It added that they immediately coordinated with the Filipina who is now in isolation to ascertain her condition. The latest report brings the number of Filipinos infected with novel coronavirus in Hong Kong to 2. The first Filipino COVID-19 patient in Hong Kong is expected to be released from the hospital this week, provided her test results remain negative. It added that as of today, the remaining Filipinos undergoing quarantine remains healthy and asymptomatic and will be released tomorrow. The consulate assured it will continue to closely monitor the condition of all Filipinos in Hong Kong and render all necessary assistance to them. Several sectors like tourism, education, business, and manufacturing sectors in various countries have been affected by the coronavirus disease 2019. The World Health Organization has warned of a possible COVID-19 pandemic. Rosalie Cos reports why.
The number of infections and deaths caused by the coronavirus disease 2019 in less than 40 countries increases every day. Aside from its health impact, COVID-19 also greatly affects the global economy. Some economists agreed that the novel coronavirus may hit the global economy harder than the SARS epidemic, which according to WHO affected 26 countries and resulted in more than 8,000 cases in 2003. Travel restrictions imposed by other countries countries on China, where the coronavirus outbreak originated, are expected to impact the manufacturing giant's economic growth in the first quarter of 2020. Stock prices of airlines, ship lines, and other companies related to the tourism industry are descending. In the shipping sector, COVID-19 triggers a massive decrease of raw material imports from economic powerhouse China because factories had stopped operating and are only starting to recover.
And on the finished goods side of it, you've got empty containers, for example, in China, and you've got a shortage of containers in the States because the manufactured goods are not getting out of China and being transported around the world. So it's affecting all the supply chain throughout the shipping industry.
The coronavirus disease is also affecting the supplier networks of multinational companies. In Italy, where there are more than 370 cases and 12 have died as of today, 10 towns are on a lockdown in Lombardy, where the bulk of the infections in the European country are located. Many establishments have stopped operating, such as schools, universities, museums, and cinemas. In Japan, the coronavirus has hit tourism, threatening the cancellation of the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics if the outbreak continues. In the Philippines, the Department of Trade and Industry admits the flight restrictions to and from China have affected the supply of electronics, autos, auto parts, and pharmaceutical industries in the country. Valenzuela City Representative Wes Gatchalian, the House Committee Chair on Trade and Industry, reiterates to the Duterte administration's economic managers that the government should be well prepared for the worst-case scenario of COVID-19's effects. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue.
The number of confirmed cases of coronavirus has topped 82,000 globally. The overwhelming majority of cases of the infection are still in mainland China, which has reported 78,497 cases and 2,744 deaths. Outside China, there are 3,659 confirmed cases in 48 countries with 56 fatalities. The virus has rapidly spread across Asia with 1,595 cases in South Korea, 862 in Japan, adding that 453 cases have also been reported in Italy and 139 cases in Iran. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, the Department of Health said out of the cumulative total of 615 PUIs or persons under investigation for possible COVID-19, only 64 were still admitted at medical facilities. Meanwhile, the number of discharged PUIs is at 548. The 3 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the Philippines were no longer receiving hospital care, as 2 of them recovered and the other had died. Welcome back. Despite reaching a normal operating level, Angat Dam may still experience a drop in its water level in mid-May, according to Pag-asa. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Angat Dam has a normal water level now. The water reservoir posted a water level of 202.31 meters at 6 a.m. today. This is, however, 10 centimeters lower than yesterday's record. Pag-asa says if the watershed will not receive rainfall, its water level might fall below the normal operating level before the end of the dry season.
Posibleng umabot ito ng 180 or below sa kalagitnaan ng Mayo.
But Pag-asa does not see a recurrence of the water crisis last year. Not only Angat Dam, but also La Mesa Dam has been observed to have an increased water level. The 2 watersheds are Metro Manila's primary sources of water.
Sa kasalukuyan, ang elevation ng La Mesa Dam is mahigit 77 meters. Samantalang nung nakaraang taon, March 9 pa lang is wala na pong tubig ang La Mesa Dam.
The National Water Sources Board says the 42 cubic meters per second allocation will remain for Metro Manila in March. Customers of Manila Water will continue to experience water service interruptions or low water pressure, mostly from 12 midnight until 4 in the morning. On the other hand, around 60% of the Manila's customer will experience water service interruption. According to the 2 water concessionaires, the rotational water service interruption is part of their preparation for the approaching dry season. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
After President Duterte accepted the apology of ABS-CBN, the media network will proceed with donating the president's refund to charity. Meanwhile, Malacanang says the House of Representatives should be accountable to the people on the pending ABS-CBN franchise renewal bill. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
ABS-CBN Corporation is grateful and humbled after President Rodrigo Duterte accepted the apology of the media giant's president and CEO Carlo Katigbak last Monday. ABS-CBN says it will also coordinate with the president's office for guidance on donating the president's refund to a charitable institution. On the question what his action will be once the franchise renewal bill reaches his office, President Duterte said,
I will cross the bridge when I am done. Maybe I will call the media to help me out. It would be a difficult decision, really.
President Duterte has earlier emphasized he will not interfere in the deliberations of the Congress on ABS-CBN's franchise. Meanwhile, the palace says the Congress should be accountable to the people for the pending franchise renewal bills, not only that of ABS-CBN's, but also of other applicants.
They're supposed to represent their districts, so they will have to account for their constituents, why they have not done anything on this particular subject matter. I cannot understand why they cannot pass a law on either the renewal of the grant of a franchise, whether with respect to ABS-CBN or other pending applicants.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano insists that there is a plan to oust him from his post. He claims critics are using the national budget and the ABS-CBN franchise issues to oust him from House speakership. Vincent Arboleda tells us why.
Amid the issue on ABS-CBN Corporation's franchise, information on a coup plot against the leadership of the House of Representatives has surfaced. Several accusations and controversies had been thrown against the media network. But after the Senate hearing last Monday, the critics changed their views on the issue. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo even criticized the Congress for not tackling the ABS-CBN franchise. Even Senator Bongo has said that the lower house should already deliberate the ABS-CBN franchise. The president himself accepted the apology of ABS-CBN CEO and President Carlo Katigbak. Even Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio has released a statement to express her support for the renewal of ABS-CBN's franchise. House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano clarifies, however, President Rodrigo Duterte has no hand on the proceedings in the lower house of Congress.
It's not only about the president. Wala namang utos, hindi naman direction ng Pangulo yung ating how we're handling the ABS issue.
Cayetano further explains he does not want to rush the process as there are only 6 session days left before the House recess.
What we're after here is a serious discussion on the role of media in our democracy and how we can put rules and regulation that is fair to everyone, not to Duterte and his allies, not to the Liberal Party and their allies, but to everyone.
But according to the House Speaker, critics are using the issues on ABS-CBN's franchise and of the national budget to remove him from his post. Cayetano says there are 20 lawmakers who have approached and informed him about the alleged coup plot. With that knowledge, Cayetano gave his advice for the other lawmakers who want to sow chaos in the House of Representatives.
If you cannot cooperate with the present leadership, umalis muna kayo sa committees nyo, sa chairmanship nyo, bumalik na lang kayo pag speaker na si Congressman Velasco.
Cayetano was also asked if Marinduque Congressman Lord Alan Velasco has a hand on the matter.
Nangangako ng pondo at chairmanship at yung iba siya mismo kausap. Diba? But as I said, pag nahuli, ano pa ba sasabihin?
The House Speaker said he is doing investigations on those planning to disrupt the leadership of the House of Representatives.
Meron kasing mga pananabutahe sa budget na nangyayari ngayon that I have to deal with, na na-trace namin sa kampo nila. No? But we will deal with it decisively, and yun nga advice ko dun sa ibang mga chairperson.
Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Taguig City.
The Justice Department and a lawmaker have varying views on granting provisional authority to ABS-CBN Corporation. Arlene Delgado reports why.
The Department of Justice has released its guidance to the National Telecommunications Commissioner (NTC), saying that it may grant provisional authority to ABS-CBN. In its 6-page letter sent to the NTC, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara says there was sufficient equitable basis to allow broadcast entities to continue operating while their franchise renewal bills remain pending in Congress. Guevara adds it would make a more stable legal environment if the Congress would authorize the NTC to issue provisional authority through a concurrent resolution. But for Senator Panfilo Lacson, it is illegal for the NTC to grant a provisional permit to ABS-CBN after its franchise expires. Senator Lacson cites a 2003 Supreme Court ruling penned by former Chief Justice Renato Puno. The senator argues that corporations cannot continue to operate without a franchise. But Senate Minority Leader Franklin Relon claims the ruling cannot be applied to the case of ABS-CBN as the network has franchise renewal bills pending in Congress.
So whether it's a concurrent resolution or a joint resolution, hindi ito pwedeng gamitin ng NTC para mag-issue ng provisional permit because yung provisional permit comes after a legislative franchise is issued. Simple lang naman yung interpretation Nag-expire yung lisensya mo. Pwede bang sabihin namin ng Senate sa LTO, oy, extend mo nga yan.
Drilon has filed a concurrent resolution urging the NTC to grant provisional authority to ABS-CBN. The House Committee on Legislative Franchises, meanwhile, wrote a letter to the NTC also seeking to issue provisional permit to the network past its franchise expiration. However, Senator Lacson believes that should Congress begin to hear the franchise bills and transmit its version to the Senate by next week, there is a huge chance the bill will be passed before they go on recess on March 12.
Well, you can say that.
Renewal, hindi lang inaksyonan. So,
well, you can
kasalanan
say that.
nila yun.
It's really unfair to them. Hindi nila kasalanan dahil hindi naman sila late nag-file ng application. I don't know. Kasi sinasabi naman ng Pangulo, wala naman siyang tinatawagang congressman para wag i-hear yung... But, you know, yung lahat naman ng pronouncements, doon papunta.
Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte orders the creation of a national task force against animal-borne diseases such as African swine fever following the increased number of cases of the hog disease nationwide. Under Executive Order number 105, the National Task Force on Animal-Borne Diseases will be chaired by the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Health will be the vice chair. Among the functions of the Interagency Task Force is to formulate appropriate policies, regulations, and measures to address issues relating to animal-borne diseases and develop a national risk reduction program and a comprehensive framework to manage and eradicate animal-borne diseases. The funding of the National Task Force shall be sourced from the available funds of the member agencies. Some residents in Barangay Aranguren, Capas, Tarlac still have fears in spite of the precautionary measures implemented within the new Clark City facility. Meanwhile, the provincial government appeals to the health department to use a different quarantine area for the next batches of repatriates. Nina Armilio tells us why.
The Department of Health assures precautionary measures are in place to allay the fears of residents near the new Clark City Sports Hub. The facility is being used to quarantine more than 400 Filipinos repatriated from Japan due to COVID-19. A health officer is on standby near the NCC every day. The DOH says the belongings of the repatriates pass through proper treatment and disposal. The health department also conducts orientations to residents on the coronavirus disease.
Ongoing po yung community orientations natin regarding po sa pagpaunawa kung ano ba yung coronavirus, yung COVID na ito, and how it's being transmitted. The general measures that we are also advocating is that we need to strengthen our advocacy in terms of personal hygiene. Ito po ay talagang pinakamabisa kong paraan pag inuubo tayo.
But despite the assurance of health authorities, residents cannot avoid to worry. Just like Corazon Estabilio of Sitio Camatis, her family's house is just about 500 meters away from the NCC.
Takot po. Kaya lang, sabi ng mayor, walang sakit. Hindi, gano'n na lang, susunod na lang kami.
Malaki pa po yung takot. Siyempre, hindi po maiwasan yun. Lalo na nakakamatay po yung sakit. Kahit sino naman po yung tanongin, matatakot ka. Lalong-lalo na po, kalapit lang po namin dito. Hindi na maiwasan na hindi matakot.
Their jobs are also affected, like workers residing in tents. Stores are experiencing lower sales because of less customers. Meanwhile, government officials in Tarlac Province call on the Department of Health to bring and quarantine the next possible batches of repatriates elsewhere.
Ang gusto ko lang po sa Department of Health, you have tested the province already in our readiness and in support. I think in cases like this, other provinces should also be tested for their readiness.
I hope this will be the last. If there will be third batches, I hope they will already consider Port Magsaysay. Why we cannot repair the Port Magsaysay Mega Rehab Center in 20 days? So that is our appeal. Hoping there will be no third batches anymore.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Health Department assures the community surrounding the New Clark City Sports Hub that there are measures in place to prevent local transmission of COVID-19. Even the wastewater disposal system has been arranged. Let's find out why from Asher Kadapan Jr.
Stricter quarantine protocols are being observed inside the athletes' village of the New Clark City Sports Hub in Tarlac Province for the more than 400 Filipinos undergoing a 14-day quarantine. Movement within the sports hub as well as entry or dispatch from the facility are controlled. Only the MV Diamond Princess Management, who supplies the food, toiletries, and other needs of the repatriates from Japan, is allowed to enter the facility's gates.
Pagdating po dun sa loob, meron ho tayong mga nakaatas, no? Or nakatalaga na mga aids natin kung saan sila po ang nagdadala ng mga logistical requirements, pagkain sa bawat kwarto. Sila po ay nakadoon ng complete personal protective equipment kapag ginagawa po nila ito.
Assistant Secretary Maria Rosario Vergeri of the DOH Public Health Services team also explains that the DOH Region 3 personnel, in coordination with the MV Diamond Princess Management, have arranged the waste disposal system in the facility with a disposal company. The DOH also believes that the sewerage system in the athletes' village will not affect the water system in the community as the facility is distantly isolated.
So itong mga waste natin doon are considered hazardous waste, no? So meron nakatalaga na pagtatapunan at kung paano ang proseso kung paano siya i-dispose.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, City of Manila.
Y News continues. Philippine and Japanese officials say there were lapses in the conduct of the quarantine protocols on MV Diamond Princess cruise ship. Meanwhile, an interagency task force is set to plan the repatriation of Filipinos in Macau. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Of the more than 3,000 passengers and crew members of the MV Diamond Princess cruise ship, 705 tested positive for COVID-19. 80 of them are Filipinos, among which 10 had recovered and have been discharged from health facilities in Japan. But they were not part of the repatriation this week. Health authorities explained the transmission of the coronavirus within the cruise ship was due to the exposure and interaction of the persons on the sea vessel, which is a confined area. According to the assessment of the Philippines Health Chief and of Japanese authorities, the implementation of quarantine on the cruise ship was flawed. Secretary Francisco Duque III says one of the lapses seen was the continuous workflow of the crew members amid the COVID-19 gloom.
What would have been ideal was to have ensured that even the crew were strictly following quarantine protocols. They shouldn't have let them mingle, go around. So, kaya nagkaroon ng ganung problema.
But according to the World Health Organization, carrying on with the work process was inevitable since there were passengers, so the crew members needed to render services.
But then who would look after and provide services? That's something that's already happened, right? We can't roll it back now.
Meanwhile, there are Filipino workers in Macau who have expressed their intention to be repatriated. The Interagency Task Force is now in talks for the repatriation plan.
Hindi naman po yun na naging choice ng Interagency Task Force o ng gobyerno. Ito po ay isang request galing po sa ating mga kababayan sa Macau. So hindi po tayo pumipili ng kung sino ang dapat, no? Although, syempre special case po yung sa MV Diamond Princess and of course in Wuhan.
According to WHO, there are 10 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Macau's Special Administrative Region. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
A Filipino crew member of the Diamond Princess cruise ship who is now under quarantine in New Clark City is considering not to continue working for the cruise liner. However, another challenge he will face soon is looking for employment in the Philippines. Sherwin Kulubong has this exclusive report.
Elias Derrick was working as a deck maintenance crew member on the Diamond Princess when the cruise ship was placed in quarantine in Japan due to COVID-19. He is thankful he has not contracted the virus. He is among the 455 Filipinos repatriated from the cruise ship after testing negative for the disease. Elias Derrick is now in the New Clark City Sports Hub in Tarlac for another round of quarantine. He says that for now, he has no plans on working on the cruise ship again. In fact, he is considering terminating his contract with the cruise liner and stay in the Philippines with his parents.
Sabi po ng pamilya ko, huwag na daw po ako magbarko eh. Huwag na daw po ako mag-cruise ship. Susubukan ko po muna siguro. Natatakot din kasi ako brad eh, pag nasa cruise ship.
But Derrick admits he is worried about the uncertainty of landing a job in the country.
Itong quarantine period na to, meron pa po kaming sahod, dire-diretso pa po. Tapos after ng quarantine, makakatanggap po kami ng 2 months paid off. Yun po yung sabi ng kumpanya, 2 months paid off. Tapos, kung gusto mong ituloy yung kontrata mo, pwede naman po sa mga kakasimula pa lang ng kontrata, pwedeng sumampa ulit. Sa akin, ang pinili ko na ho, yung tapusin ko na yung, i-terminate ko na yung kontrata ko.
Elias Derrick adds he doesn't want to go home after completing the quarantine period.
Hindi na rin ako siguro magpapakita sa mga tao ng baka ano kung sabihin niya sa akin. Mag-iingat na rin.
Derrick shares that he was taken to a hospital today together with 2 others. They are under observation after experiencing pain in the throat. Sherwin Kulubong, UNTV News and Rescue, Laguna.
And for the news abroad, South Korea and the United States will postpone joint military drills until further notice, defense officials in Seoul said on Thursday, amid a growing coronavirus outbreak in South Korea that has now infected soldiers from both countries. The U.S. military reported its first case of the coronavirus on Wednesday in a 23-year-old soldier based in Camp Carroll, about 20 kilometers from Daegu, where most of the country's 1,595 cases have been reported. The South Korean military has also reported a number of infections and has confined most troops to their bases. Earlier this week, South Korea's president called the situation posed by the virus grave, and the country raised its alert, assessing its threat to the highest level. The remains of a teenager who had been missing for 2 days were found in the lion's enclosure at a safari park in Pakistan. Meanwhile, 5 people have been killed in a shooting at a brewing company campus in Milwaukee, Wisconsin state. Beverly Saison details this report.
In the USA,
A gunman opened fire at the Molson Coors Beverage Company brewing complex in Milwaukee on Wednesday, killing 5 employees before he was found dead from an apparently self-inflicted gunshot. The attacker was identified as a 51-year-old Milwaukee resident. His motives were unclear. The shooting occurred in the early afternoon while hundreds of employees were still at work. President Donald Trump acknowledging the shooting as he opened a White House news conference about the coronavirus outbreak, referred to the gunman as a wicked murderer and called the gun violence a terrible thing. In Pakistan, the remains of a teenage boy have been found in the lion enclosure of a Lahore zoo a day after he went missing. Officials said they are investigating how Muhammad Bilal, 17, made it over the fence and what caused his death. But locals have blamed Mr. Bilal's demise on staff incompetence, and earlier this week, the zoo's offices were ransacked. The state-backed Lahore Safari, established in 1982, is Pakistan's largest and oldest animal park. And in Colombia, a rare glimmer of hope amongst the devastation of a mudslide in Colombia after a baby was rescued alive in Piedecuesta in the country's east. Video shows a man carrying a 9-month-old boy who was rescued after a mudslide destroyed several houses and farms in this rural area. 2 other people were also found alive. According to reports, 5 people died and another 12 are missing after the mudslides hit at dawn on Wednesday. Heavy rain causing the Manco River and La Grande Ravine to flow has been blamed for the tragedy. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue.
Hundreds of people descended on the market town of Ashburn in central England to play a traditional football game in which the rules are hazy and the goals nearly 5 kilometers apart. Here's Jovic Bermas to tell us why.
Every year, a game like no other kicks off in Ashburn, Derbyshire. The Royal Shrovetide football match is a relatively lawless rugby-football hybrid extravaganza where hundreds of players try and get the ball to goals that are 3 miles apart. The match involves teams called the Uppards, those born north of the River Henmore, and the Donards, those born south of the river, who battle to try and tap the ball 3 times on stone plinths that act as goals. Well aware of the passions involved, local shops close early and board up as if preparing for a riot. Due to the large numbers taking part, there is little kicking of the ball, with players instead tending to carry the ball across the boundary-free pitch. The match is played from 2 to 10 p.m. local time on both Shrove Tuesday and the following day, but goals are rare because of the size of the pitch.
Yeah, the greatest game in the world for us. Yeah, it's the origin of football, which I'm obsessed with, and there's nothing better than a whole town fighting over a ball for 2 days.
The centuries-old event in Derbyshire gained its royal title when the future Edward VIII started the game in 1928 by throwing up the ball in traditional fashion, an act repeated by present heir to the throne Prince Charles in 2003. The Uppards won on the first day with a goal from player Tom Layton. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Maria Sharapova, the Russian 5-time Grand Slam champion who became one of the highest-paid sportswomen in the world, announced her retirement at the age of 32. Florida-based Sharapova, whose Wimbledon victory in 2004, age 17, propelled her to superstardom, broke the news in an article for magazine Vanity Fair. Her decision is hardly a major surprise, as she has struggled with injuries and poor form since returning from a 15-month drugs ban in 2017, the result of testing positive for meldonium at the 2016 Australian Open. The former world #1 has played only 2 matches this year, losing in the first round on the Australian Open, with her ranking sliding to 373. The culinary world has printed a variety of edible items from cakes to pizza, but now they're taking on a much larger project. 3D printed meat aims to solve big problems. reducing greenhouse gases and providing a sustainable protein source for all consumers. Let's take a look at this bleeding edge of the food industry as Nina Armilia reports.
Meat-free vegan burgers are already a well-established meal, but a new food tech startup says its vegan steak can not only fool the taste buds into thinking you are eating beef, but also offer a more sustainable food supply system. The company says their method of 3D printing plant-based proteins can produce a vegan meal with a texture and appearance of a real beef steak.
We are ordering the fibers as if they were muscular fibers. So we are micro-extruding these filaments so that the plant-based steak has at the same time the appearance and the texture of an actual beef steak.
Described as an espresso for meat substitutes, the novel 3D printer uses syringes filled with plant-based ingredients that form a fibrous meat-like structure when extruded, line by line, to build up the shape the chef wants. Printing a steak at the Culinary School of Barcelona took around 20 minutes, but was worth the wait, according to students eager to try the finished product. The company estimates that to print 1 kilogram of steak costs about $30, based on the cost of the raw ingredients. Their price is expected to drop as they scale up. The first commercial version of this food printer will be bought by restaurants as a novelty, but the company hopes to produce a version for home use as well.
Next step is to work with top chefs to create new products which can be plant-based, for example pork, for example imagine a bacon, or plant-based fish. We are trying to do the most complex ones, and we are studying, for example, salmon.
They hope to have the final version of the plant-based steak available at a top restaurant before the end of 2020. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news. And before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. I am William P.
And I am Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
The immediate risk to the general American public remains low. But as we have warned, that has the potential to change quickly.
Sa ngayon po, patuloy po yung ating flights to South Korea. So once na ma-plansya na po natin lahat ng ito, maglalabas po tayo kaagad ng travel advisory, listing down any possible flight na pwedeng ma-cancel dahil po sa travel ban na ito.
I am insisting on the ouster of all who are connected. I think we have terminated, but there will be more. I think meron atang napaalis na. But this should be replaced, all of them.
If you cannot cooperate with the present leadership, umalis muna kayo sa committees nyo, sa chairmanship nyo, bumalik na lang kayo pag speaker na si Congressman Velasco.